All right, we are live. I hope you're able to join us today live. If you're watching the recording, though, that's awesome as well. So I just wanted to invite you here today, and we'll get started here in a second. Hope you had a wonderful holiday season. Happy New Year. And I'm excited about 2020 personally. So I've got to get my tape back on this. I took this off the drawing board and sprayed it. So give us a little more tooth on the drawing. So I'm ready to put it back in its proper spot here, and we'll get started. I want to spend more time on the eyes again today, making those adjustments, make it look a little more realistic than what it is right now. As always, you can watch on either Facebook or YouTube. I've also got, I believe I've got the Periscope app running as well. So you can watch it on Twitter is what that means, if you'd rather do it that way. Okay. I welcome any questions that you may have. And I just want to take a look here for a moment, and then we'll tackle these eyes again. Okay, I just lightly sprayed it. I just got enough on there to give me a little more tooth than what I was starting to work with. I was starting to get down to that spot where you can't add as much colored pencil on top as easily. I'll put it that way. You can still add some, but it's just there's greater effort involved. I focused quite a bit on this right eye last time, so I'm going to look at the left eye over here on my left side. Sharpen my pencil up. Get this ready to go. There we go. And the sharper the pencil, typically the more you can get the pigment to adhere to the paper. It depends on a lot of factors, but most of the time with what I'm doing and the type of paper, and this is sanded paper, but the type of paper I'm using usually dictates that I need an incredibly sharp pencil. So that's always something to keep in mind. Need something to lay my hand on. Just gonna tape this glassine over here on part of the paper so that I don't accidentally start smudging anything. There's very little risk that that will happen, but it could happen. There we go. I'll zoom in here just a little bit. Get us a little bit closer. There we go. So I'm using the Sienna Derwent Lightfast pencil. And I really still don't have a whole lot of tooth here, so I have to be very careful with you know, how how I'm laying some of this down. If I keep that pencil very sharp and I keep tracking in the same areas, I keep laying pencil strokes on top of pencil strokes, then I should be able to adhere more to the paper when I do that. There we go. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. Give me a little more room. There we go.
Ramona here.
Hey Ramona, how's it going? Ramona's over on Facebook. Thanks for watching today. Ramona is part of the face value course. She's also part of the monthly sharpener community and an active part in that monthly sharpener community over there. Ramona, did you have a good holiday and New Year's? I hope. If you're like me, you're ready to get back at it. I remember working a day job in IT, and most of the people that I worked with, they didn't look forward to Mondays. They couldn't stand Monday. They were looking forward to Friday. It's kind of just the opposite now for me. I look forward to Mondays. I look forward to creating artwork and interacting with students, and it's just a lot of fun. Okay. I've got too much of a line right up here. Oh, very cool, Ramona. She's saying that she drew a lot. She's over on Facebook, so if you're on YouTube Live, you're probably not able to see what she's typing in here. There we go. Need to build up some of those lighter values a little bit more. I don't want to get overly obsessed with the lighter values up here, but just hit them very quickly. If I spread out some of the work that's involved with smoothing out some of the skin, then it's, more tolerable, right? Hey, Carol Leather is over on YouTube. Thanks for joining us, Carol. How are you this morning? There we go. Okay, I got to get back down there to that eye before I forget what I'm doing here. And if I'm looking at the reference, I see a really bright red in that eye. Part of the skin of the eye, and I want to make sure that I capture that. I haven't really used a real bright red yet. I'm always forgetting to turn that camera on. It's in like demo mode before I hit the record button. So there it goes. Got the record on. Okay. There's an autumn red. I wonder what that looks like. That's too it's too dark. It's not quite bright enough. That's a little better. think I may just go with the Luminance. Yeah. Crimson Alizarin. I think I'll just use that. Okay. Yeah, so there's a little bit of red up in here. And that's some of the tones that I want right in there. Now I can always soften that back down to a more neutral color later on. But I want that brighter color in there for the moment. And if I want to change it later, I can do that. There we go. That's much better, in my opinion. Okay. Put a little bit up here. A little bit down here as well. There we go. I want to hang on to that. I really like that color, a little accent right there. Since we are getting closer, you know, to the end of this drawing, I can use something like that. Okay, there we go. This is really a back and forth process of going dark and light, back and forth, back and forth. And if you feel like, oh, I can't go back, you know, in that other direction towards some of the darker tones, then I would challenge that and I would ask why. Why do you feel like you can't do that? You can't go back and forth. Sometimes we get things stuck in our head, though, like, oh, I've heard someone say that that's overworking a piece. That if I overwork it, it's going to look muddy or tired or lifeless or whatever. But if you know what the finished result is going to look like you have it in your mind already, what you want the finished result to look like, then I believe you can go back and forth and you can float in between dark and light. Because if you do something that you deem as being a mistake, you can just go back in that other direction and just keep correcting things until they start looking more and more the way that you want them to. There we go. Make all this a little bit brighter. It'll help with some of those tones around the eye. Okay. I don't have to have this drawing looking as bright as my reference. In fact, I don't want it to be quite as bright as my reference. At least this interpretation of the reference. I'll zoom back out so you can see that a little bit better, the reference that I'm working from. But I don't have to have it quite that bright. You know, this is just one photo edit of the reference, and I've already got it in my mind what I want the drawing to look like. If I wash it out too much and I capitalize and depict all of these bright areas exactly the way I see them over here in this particular reference of the photo, then what will happen is I will have a washed out look on my drawing, in my opinion. And I don't want a washed out look. I want something that will show me some curve and dimension and form and a little bit of skin tone. You know, what is this, you know, skin color? What is, you know, the pigmentation of the skin? I want to be able to see that a little bit. And really all of us, regardless of what you consider yourself, if you consider yourself Caucasian, or if you're from an ethnicity where you've got darker skin, we all have the same color. It's just varying degrees within that color. And so there's slightly more orange, or there's slightly more olive, or slightly more of whatever. And pretty much everyone's skin is predominantly the same. There's just more or less of certain tones. There we go. Hey, Melissa, thanks for joining us over there on YouTube Live. Get a little more right in here. I want to minimize some of that. Get a little more of the sclera showing down here. There we go. Needs to be just a little bit darker. I lost some of that edge right there. There we go. Pull that down just a little bit more. I can see where that edge is. That's where I want to have as much contrast as possible. And this needs to be a little more vertical, I feel like. Right in here. That's better. And I could have a little more blue right in there. Now this time it's really adhering a lot more than it was before.
Glad to be here.
That's better than what it was.
I'm from Rochester, Minnesota.
Oh, very cool. Melissa saying that she is from Minnesota. She's able to catch the stream live today, so that's awesome. Glad you're here. Okay. I can put some of this bluish tint right in here at the edge of where this is creating some reflection because of the light source hitting the sclera. And let's see. I don't want to go up too far.
Hi, Melissa.
There we go. Come back down in that direction. And I just want to accent this just a little bit to say, yes, there is a little bit of skin underneath there being shown. I don't want to make a bigger deal of it than I need to. Same way over here. There we go. It's a little bit too bright, so I can push that back down just a little bit. There we go. A little bit better. And work on those eyelashes a little bit. I need to sharpen that pencil though. I want to pay attention to the direction of the eyelashes. They're nearly vertical out this way because of this rotation in the head. And then I can go back in there very carefully with some of the lighter areas.
Which did you use?
Yeah, so Nick Edgar is asking which fixative I used. Yeah, I used Krylon. Krylon workable fixative. Been a tried and true tool for a long, long time. There we go. Get that in there. Giving her more eyelashes than she really has in the reference on the bottom. There we go. Get more over here as well. Okay. I can come back in here and refine those eyelashes just a little bit. There we go.
Hello at Carol Leather and at Melissa Aldo, sorry.
Okay. I can extend this part of the iris out here just a little bit. And that will still make sense. I look at my other eye, make sure that I don't need to make any adjustments. I can extend that just a little bit. Make it a little more round. I think I can get away with that than what it is right now. I want to make sure I get rid of any debris. Okay.
She's beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. Appreciate that. There we go. Okay. Yeah, the reflections you can change entirely, right? You don't have to be a slave to your reference on reflections, and you can create more form, dimension, and curve, and all of those good things with reflections to show that, you know, that cornea does have some curvature in it, and that's an exciting thing to be able to do. And we could do it even more than what we did here, but I think what we do have will be good enough for what we're doing here. Look at this for a minute. See what that looks like. I like to look at it on the screen. Sometimes it gives you a better sense of what it looks like. Yeah, now I think I can probably go a little brighter than on the nose. Just travel down that nose and make that just a little bit brighter than what it is.
That's a fun little dust blower you one of those.
Oh, Melissa over on YouTube, she's talking about the dust blower that I have. Yeah, it's called an air rocket. It's used in photography to clean your lens. Just give your lens a puff of air. But it works really well in art, and it's preferred over a brush by me. If I'm using a brush, not that a brush is bad, but sometimes you can just knock some of your debris into other areas of your drawing. And with that air rocket, you give it a couple of bursts of air with your hand, and you've eliminated it. And you can control the amount of air and the speed of the air that you're distributing on your surface. So it works really well, I feel like.
She looks very regal to me.
Thank you, Carol. I appreciate that. Carol says she looks very regal to me. It's kind of the look I was going for, and with a nice slender neck like this, and if you can position yourself, when I took the photo, I crouched down, I may have sat down, I don't remember, and so that way I was looking up at her, and I think that created that personality that I wanted, and that energy, and that regal kind of look to the portrait. That's really what I was going for, so I'm glad you're seeing that. Often I like to do that with children. I often feel like that's a position that you don't see with portraits of children, because most of the time we're up here and we're looking down on children, and when you can get underneath them a little bit and shoot them from underneath, it's quite a look. I think it's a striking pose. Yes, Melissa is asking if I use solvent for blending colored pencil at all. Yes, I do. Not always. I do, though, when I feel like it, or when it kind of dictates with the piece, the composition, all the things involved with what I'm trying to accomplish, and the materials that I'm using, then yes, I do use that.
Prevent you from accidentally blowing spit on your paper. Not that I have done that before.
Melissa saying it would prevent accidental spit from getting on your paper. I guess if you're using that air rocket. Yeah, very true. Yeah. If you start blowing with your mouth on your paper, on your project, then yeah, you run that risk. Okay, there's another spot where I can use that red that I used a while ago, and that will enhance just that Terminator line, the separation from light and dark, because I can create a very warm tone right in there where we start to turn from the light to the dark.
LOL.
There we go. There's something that I really love about just creating an edge of where the Terminator line is with something very warm like red. It just makes it stand out a little bit more. Now, when someone's looking, the viewer's looking at the piece, I don't want them to look at it and say, "Oh, I used red right over there." No, I don't want that. I want it to be something that's sort of dancing and playing around with the light. And if you put the red on and then you come back into it with some of your more neutral tones, you can get rid of anything that would make it a distracting red. But it warms it up enough, even in these nostrils, it warms it up enough where it looks like there's a distinction between warm and cool areas, between where the light is hitting the subject and is going into shadow. I mean, same thing is true, right? If I'm using cool colors in the shadows, I'm really saying with that, okay, this area is a very bold separation between what is in the shadows and what is in the light. That's really what I'm doing in the opposite direction with red. Okay, so if I went, I'm going to come back in there and soften that up. But if I went in that direction with the red, then with patience, I'm going to come down here and add red to more of those areas that are starting to separate between light and shadow. And when I do that, it's going to make my red in the eyes that I used, it's going to start to help that to make more sense, right? So Carol's asking, would that be called Penumbra? I suppose so. Is that's not a term I use all that often, but that's that. Yeah, that is part of theory when you start looking at those separations of the value going from light to dark. And I can't remember where that is exactly, like if you're drawing the sphere and you're seeing where that usually that separation is called the terminator, and then right below that I think is the penumbra, or it's right in the same area. I can't remember offhand, but I think that is right. But yes, I think maybe the terminator and penumbra are about the same thing. So but yeah, if you are able to create that bridge that gap between the light and the dark in a very graceful way, in a way that makes us wonder about what's going on in that separation, I feel like it makes your piece a little more compelling, rather than just having a hard line to separate something. Even if it's a soft edge, I've seen that where someone will just create a hard line. Just right up, just draw this line, make a mark that's a line, and then they start on the shadow. And when you do that, it just doesn't add a whole lot of visual interest. Oh, Carol, you've not heard Terminator use that sense before. Cool. Hey, Lady Marigold, thanks for joining us. I believe your name is Heidi, over on YouTube Live. So thanks for joining us. Awesome. Glad you're able to be here. Okay. Now that neck is not going to be that bright. I know it's really bright in the reference, but I'm not going to leave it that bright at all. But I wanted to have a road map here and a clear separation between what I'm doing at the moment.
Yes, Heidi.
Cool. Heidi, okay, so sometimes my memory is working, so that's great. That's good news. All right. Now sometimes, you know, when you're adding a really bold color like this, even if you feel like it's the right thing to do, sometimes you may feel like once you start doing it that it's a mistake, or that it's too bold, or it's going to ruin the piece, and what you thought you had looking great is now destroyed, and things like that. Your mind can start playing tricks on you. But I would just tell you that if you start to feel that way, just remind yourself that this is a tint, this is a glazing of that color, and that on the other side of everything, once you lay in some of your other tones, everything is going to balance out and it's going to look fine. A few lines here, they're starting to distract just a little bit. I want to push those back. There we go. Okay. A little too much right in here. So I want to soften that just a little bit. Come back in there with my ivory and push that just a little bit more. There we go. So one of the reasons why I love pastel mat, any kind of pastel paper, is you don't have to be as careful about your mark making. You can be a little more sloppy. You don't have to be reserved.
It actually looks better than the reference smiling face with smiling eyes.
Oh, Lady Marigold just said that she thinks the portrait looks better than the reference. Thank you so much. That's the goal, right? That's always your goal. Your goal is to make it something that is better. So I appreciate you saying that. It's always my goal. I don't always hit that, but that's what I try to do. Okay. It's a little bit too much red right in there. Soften that up just a little bit. Add a little brown, and then come back in the other direction. There we go. That should be better by the time we get that all in there, hopefully. Look at it on my larger screen. Yeah. Okay. To me, that's a little bit too bright right up in there, and I can soften that just a little bit. Now, the rules of light would tell me that, you know, this nose, even underneath here, underneath the nostrils, you're going to have a bright highlight right up in here. And my reference tells me that as well. But here's the cool thing, though, about just following some rules of light that don't always even apply to something that we're looking at, is that I can pretend like there's a canopy lighting situation going on if I wanted to.
Will the background stay as is?
Yeah, so Lady Marigold's asking about the background. Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not opposed to putting a background in here, but I'm not going to on this one. I'm ready to move on after I've done this. If I spend a lot of time trying to put in a background, now I just don't think that it's going to enhance the portrait by doing that. I'm not opposed to putting backgrounds in portraits, but I just don't see what the benefit would be to this one. I'm going to leave it as it is. And I think I like the way that she's emerging out of the dark anyway, and that's kind of what my goal was with that. Too often I think that backgrounds detract from a piece rather than enhance the piece. And I don't always think that, but I think a lot of times that's the case. So I always want to try to be careful about my background and make it very thoughtful and intentional. Okay, let's see what that's looking like. There we go. Put a little more out there. All right. Okay. Okay, so now I'm coming back in here in that area where I have that red right there at that terminator, or that separation of light and dark, and I can smooth that out just a little bit with this ivory.
When you do choose a background, what influences your choice the most?
So Lady Marigold is asking, when I do choose a background, what influences my choice the most? I try to ask myself, is it going to enhance something in the subject? Is it going to help bring something out? And in particular, if we're talking about portraits, is it going to help the eyes, or is it going to distract from the eyes? The eyes need to be the focal point most often. And if, you know, I'm sure you've seen backgrounds like this, but I've seen so many backgrounds where the strongest contrast no longer is in the eyes from the highlight and the darkness of the pupil, but rather it's something in the background where it has stronger contrast than the pupil. And as hard as maybe the artist wants us to look at the eyes, because of that distraction in the background, we're drawn to the background instead. So instead of something very muted or within the mid-value range, we've got something in the background that is a strong contrast. So if I were to do this one, I would say, if I was going to put a background in here, now you got me thinking about it, and maybe I will do that now that you got me wondering about it. But I would do something that maybe is a muted blue, just a hint of a muted blue, or you know, I'm looking for some opposing colors, and maybe a hint of a muted green or something like that. And that way it will enhance the skin tone and all the colors that I'm building up in the skin. That would be something I think would be very compelling for this one. But yeah, most of the time I'm looking at it and I'm thinking of, you know, what is the complement color, and will that enhance the portrait or not? There's just enough tooth on here. It's a different surface than what I was drawing on last week. Just enough tooth on here to help the pencil adhere And if I'm not careful, I'll come in there and put something down that I didn't want to. So I gotta watch for that. I want to create this soft edge over here because I don't want it to look like there's a real hard edge where this shadow dissipates and starts into another highlight over on this cheek. And so if I'm careful about that, I can create something that will soften and will lengthen that shadow. The hard edge needs to be right over here, right by the nostril, where we can't see anything anymore. Melissa's asking if anyone else's stream is frozen over on YouTube. I would be interested to know if that's the case for anybody. Is that happening to anybody? I hope not. Not updating at all, Melissa? Oh, so Heidi is saying hers is fine. So she's able to see it still. So, I don't know. Melissa, maybe stop the page, exit out of the page and come back in. Maybe that'll help you. I don't know. Doesn't seem to be doing it maybe for others.
It is fine here, Melissa.
Okay, for Carol as well, it's fine. So maybe get out of that browser tab that you're in and try coming back in. Maybe that'll help.
Have to try and reset this.
Okay.
YouTube screen is fine here in CA. Perhaps try refreshing the screen.
I'm going to leave those eyes alone for the moment. I'll have to look at them again later on. And I'm going to look at this mouth, though, for a while. Kind of ignored the mouth for the most part. I'm going to come back over here to it. Okay, let's see. I can get away with this area over here by the corner of the mouth. I can get away with that being much darker than the other highlight areas over on this other side. And why? Because I can pretend like the light isn't traveling as far over here.
That's better. LOL.
So
Thanks. Looks good.
there we go. Okay.
Glad it's working for you now.
Oh, Ted Cothran is on here on Facebook Live. So Ted is my brother-in-law. So good to see you over here, Ted. Ted is he and my sister own a bakery, and I think they just moved into a new shop store location, so that's really cool. All right. Most of my brothers and sisters, for those that may not know, I've got a bunch. I've got a ton of brothers and sisters, all from the same parents, and most of us either own our own business or, yeah, I guess we've owned our own business, most of us, and it's very rare for any of us to have a traditional job. And we may have had traditional jobs in the past. I just think it's interesting. Not sure why that is, but just the way, I don't know, just the way we are wired, I guess. My sister taught school. She was a public school teacher for a while before she started her bakery, which I think is kind of interesting. My mom was a school teacher for years and years, and she loved doing that. But I don't know. I just, you find families where everyone is, well, a school teacher or a lawyer or an accountant or something like that, and they all do the same thing. So I just think it's interesting that we all don't do that. We do these businesses where we own a very niche kind of business, a very different kind of business than what you would think of as a traditional route of working at a corporation. Yeah, I guess so, Carol. It's we're all in something different though. But I don't know. Lisa, my sister that owns the bakery, she's an artist in her own right. Some of the cakes that she creates are just incredible. I'm in awe at some of the things she's able to do. It's amazing. Okay. Got to build up that value quite a bit down here to make these, these lips look right. I want to make sure that I've got everything around this bright enough first, as bright as I want it to be. And as we gravitate towards the bottom third of the face, this lower third, then I'm thinking more about the tone being less warm. I can get away with it being a little more neutral and a little more blue or brown or gray or green or purple, fill in the blank. Purple's starting to get a little too warm though. Purples and reds and those kind of colors I want to reserve for this middle area with the eyes, nose, and ears, those kind of areas. But this area down below, I can get away with it being a little more neutral. And then for the neck on my drawing, I'm actually going to make it darker, much darker than the face. Because the three-dimensionality of a neck would dictate that it's fine to do that. That would allow for me to create something that is further away from the viewer than the jawline, than the cheeks, certainly the bridge of the nose. And so I can follow those rules of three-dimensionality in light when I do that. Said I'm going to work on the mouth, and here I am over in the eye area. Need to get back over there. I'm just finding all these areas that still need attention. But I can work on that later. So I can get back down here to the mouth. So I haven't worked on this mouth in a long, long time. And it kind of shows at the moment. And remember with your portrait that you're working on, everything is relative. So if you end up using a particular palette and you look back at your reference photo, you know, if you're using things that are more yellow or more red or something like that than you're seeing in your reference photo, and you go back and you look at your reference photo, don't let that throw you off or deter you or keep you from making those same choices with the particular palette you chose and that you settled on. Because if you start going in, you know, some other direction all of a sudden, then it might start looking a little off, looking a little funny if you do that. But just stick with that palette that you've already chosen, and it'll turn out fine. It'll be good in the end. It'll work out. Okay. Got a little bit of that lighter area right up here. It's not as bright right here as it is over on this left side. Or again, I can get away with it being not as bright. And this is where I'm going to start wishing that I had a few more pinks than what I do. But if you focus on the shapes and the values of the mouth, the overall colors in the mouth won't matter, they don't matter as much. It's really just a difference in skin texture when we start looking at lips. We're not really drawing something that needs to have totally different colors, unless, of course, there's like some strong lipstick or something like that we're wanting to depict. Otherwise, we're drawing something that just has a different type of skin. It's really more of the inside of the mouth is what the lips are. And then there's that line separation between the lips and the rest of the mouth or face. And so really we're depicting a different texture of skin in that area is what we're doing. Okay, so let me come back in here with my, what is this, Ruby Earth? I think Sienna might be a better one to start with. I've built up that value a little bit. I can come back in here now with Sienna and lay in these values here, these tones. And then I may need to build that up again after I'm done using this color. Now see, I do see a lot of very bright pinks in certain areas here. Now they're not going to be real bright by the time I'm done, but to begin with, I can make them brighter than they need to be. Eventually they'll be darker. Oh, thank you, Carol. Appreciate that. I can use this Ruby Earth now right in here. I want to pay attention and honor some of these wrinkles in the lips. That's what will give it that look like it is lips rather than just, you know, something else. There we go. Now this sort of has that soft edge right here. Nearly imperceptible that there's a soft edge right in there. And it gradually goes into that highlight. Same way on the bottom, I've got a soft edge right in here, and really that soft value travels all the way to that midpoint in the mouth. I need to build up that value just a little bit more. There's not really a clear separation. I don't feel like in the separation of the bottom and top lip. And sometimes that doesn't always present well. So I want to try to do that and then look at it and evaluate it and ask myself, is that convincing, or do I need a separation? You know, mouths are one of those things that's a very pliable piece of the anatomy and of the structure of the face that can change, and depending on the expression, what the pose is at the moment, it can change a lot. And I don't always have to show it exactly the way it is. So I can depict it a little bit differently if I want, if I need to, and if I want to. Right in here. Now, even if I feel like I've gotten rid of most of those wrinkles that I wanted to keep, I can put them in later on. Now these wrinkles over here starting to go in the other direction and then up like this. Grab some of these at the edge of the mouth right in here, pushing up against that shadow right there. I gotta see what that looks like though to make sure that looks believable. Might start to look funny if I don't pay attention to it and if I'm not careful. Okay, soften that back down over here. There we go. It actually could be a little bit darker. Yeah, there we are. All right. And then just because I can and I like this, I'm going to put a little more blue right in there. Enhance that just a little bit right there. There we go. Okay. One of the areas of the mouth that I think is the most fun to draw is the corners of the mouth. That little area right in there that is darker than any other spot. Oh, it's just so fun to draw that. There's just nothing like that. Well, there are some things like that. The eyes are another area that's a lot of fun usually. But just that area right in there is, it's just great when you can show that dimension and curve right in there. There we go. Now that I'm looking at this shadow shape here does need to be elongated just a little bit. It needs to come down a little bit more into the mouth area. So I'll hit that very quickly here, and I'll work on that over time as I keep developing more of that area surrounding the lips and the mouth. But that's enough indication to me. You know, that's not on there in a very smooth manner, but it's enough indication to me that that needs to come down a little bit more as I keep working at, you know, at that light shape right there. Okay, I'll come back over here. Mouth and I need to sharpen this ivory pencil, but I can look at those dark creases, the dark wrinkles there in the mouth, and I can say to myself, that if I put some lighter colors right next to the darker areas, those darker wrinkles, then it will enhance those wrinkles just a little bit more, which is what I want in this case right now. Sergio, man, attending a conference, huh? And you're watching this as a distraction. All right. That cracks me up. Okay. Yeah. If I can put more of those highlights over here. And then come back in there with Ruby Earth. And I may need to go darker at some point. But right now, this is fine. Using Ruby Earth. And put more of that contrast in there. Whoops, just broke that tip of that Derwent Lightfast pencil. That happens sometimes. Grr. It's annoying. It does happen though. Okay, this part is a little bit darker right here. So use that sienna right in there. This part up here is nearly matched in tonal value. It needs to be sharper. Ah, that does not happen very often. I just broke that lid. I got a special little place for all those broken tips. It's a little jar I keep them in. Okay. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I've got them all in this little jar. Actually, I think I have 2 or 3 of those jars. Seems like I lose them, and then I grab another one. Because I started another one just the other day. It barely has any in them. I have one that has a lot more, but yeah, I started that one just the other day. Then I had some tips laying around. That doesn't happen very often. You might think, by the way I was just talking, that it just happens all the time. No, it doesn't. But it does happen. It's just part of the process. It happens less often with the pencils that I use and the sharpeners I use than it probably does for some.
Could you grind them up into a powder and use that for backgrounds? Grind up those tips and mix with solvent for a brush-on color.
So Carol's asking, could I grind those up and use them for a background? Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. There's got to be something I can do with those, right? Auction them on eBay? I don't know. Rana Williams over on Facebook Live is saying, grind up those tips and mix with solvent and brush on color. Yeah. You know, you would think that, I don't know if you've ever tried that, Rana, but it just doesn't work all that well. You would think that you could just use it like paint, you know, just melt those away like with solvent and use it like paint. And when you try that, it really just doesn't work quite that simply and that easily. I wish it did. That would make it really nice. But yeah, you can. I mean, you can dissolve them a little bit and tint some of your solvent, I guess. Use it that way, but it's not quite the same as if you were painting. I'm gonna smooth out some of those bright areas right now.
I just keep all the little pencil stubs when they are finally too short to use and have a jar of those now.
Yeah, Heidi's saying that she keeps all the little pencil stubs that she ends up with. She doesn't keep the tips. Yeah, I do both. I don't know why. It's just, I guess, I'm just thinking, I guess, wow, I invested so much in these pencils. I got to keep this. I don't know. Maybe it's a pack rat in me or something. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like maybe there's going to be something useful that I can do with those. Maybe I'll figure that out. I don't know what it might be, but at some point I'll probably do something with them. Okay, let's do this. I'm losing that little dark area right there. I don't want to lose that dark area. I like those dark areas. If it wasn't for the dark areas, I couldn't have light areas, right?
I have 2 pencils that are getting short, but don't have a collection of them yet. Guess as I do more art it will happen, LOL.
Yeah, Carol says she has some short pencils, but doesn't have a collection yet. Yeah, you'll get your own collection. It's something that every color pencil artist, you start to get your own collection, so it will happen. It's kind of aggravating in a lot of ways. I don't know. I wish there was. I've seen a lot of different options for what you can do with your tiny pencils and how you can start to use those and break them apart and use the pigment inside and all that.
Many pencils I've gone through and am actually surprised that I haven't used as many as I thought I did.
Yeah, Heidi's saying she's surprised she hasn't used as many as she thought that she would have. By collecting them, she's kind of keeping track of it. Yeah, it's true. You would think you would build up just a huge collection. But I don't know. I'm getting quite a collection, and it seems like I wish that someone would just come up with a solution for being able to use those in some way, break them apart and use them in the right way. I've seen a lot of different solutions, but I've never seen anything that I've just really loved after I've seen some of the different suggestions on what to do with them, but just never seen anything that I really liked a whole lot. So Heidi's saying, it always seems that sharpening, you're going through the pencil more quickly than you are. Yeah, true. It does. It can start to feel like that a little bit. Like, oh no, I'm using up too much pencil right here. And yeah, but actually, yeah, lead holders work a little bit, Carol. And it will elongate that pencil for a little while, but you can outuse that as well, right? You can get to a point where that just isn't going to do it, also. But yeah, that can help a little bit. Right here, let's see. Okay, so that value, I'm going to do something a little more strange in this area. Add a little more blue right in here. And then I'm going to just making a little pattern pretty much. And then I'm going to add my local color that I want up on top of that. And I'm looking for Caput Mortem. Should be around here somewhere. It likes to travel sometimes, but I should have it here somewhere. Or at least something close to it. Or not. I gotta see if it's in my bin over here. Oh, right here in front of my face. Okay. That's usually where things are. All right. If I can't find something, then I just start looking like on my person or just right around me. And I'll usually find it. Okay. So this, I can come back in this direction. Smooth all that out a little bit. So if I use that color up there in the top lip, I at least want to use it a little bit in the bottom lip. And even if I want to go on top of that later, that's fine. But I want to use it in both of those places. Okay. Use it up here as well. Why do I do that? So that there is some symmetry, some balance. I don't want one color just dominating only one area. There we go. You guys are cracking me up. We're all on these pencil stubs and these broken tips still. Yeah, that's exactly right, Nick. Nick said if you want to, for those that aren't on YouTube Live, if you want to hide something from him, just stick it right in front of him. Yeah, that's how I feel too. It makes you feel so dumb too whenever you finally find it. It's like, oh, right there. Okay. I did that for a little while when I first started wearing glasses. You know, I was one of those people. I didn't need glasses ever in life growing up, but now I do. I'm nearly okay with that. But anyway, sometimes I couldn't find them. You know, I didn't know where they were. They would be on my head or, you know, actually wearing them or something like that. It's just so ridiculous. Okay. Oh man, I always forget how much I love this Caput Mortem until I start using it. I'm like, wow, should have been using this all along. Okay, let's see here. Add a little more. I don't want to get carried away with the highlights over on the right side, because I want the left side to be brighter. And I've got to build that up just a little bit more because there's something that is looking very very blue or green right there in the lips, and I don't want that to dominate at all. We can push that over here and then build up that value as being a lighter value right in there. There we go. Okay, I'm liking that. And ah, very cool. Carol saying she's using that Caput Mortem, finding it very useful in drawing a dog, a chestnut coated dog. So Awesome. Yeah. There's just hardly there's hardly a time that the Caput Mortem or Caput Mortem Violet is not the answer, right? That's what I've noticed. It's like it will create that good base layer, if nothing else, that can neutralize an area, even if you need to go back in there and work on bringing out some brighter colors, or making something darker or lighter. I just feel like it will neutralize an area just enough to where you need it to be. There we go. Let's get some of that back in here. Now this nearly needs to be the same tone, and this right up in here, where that area of to the right there of the philtrum, where it glides into the top of the top lip, that needs to be a little more neutral and less bright. Right in there. There we go. We're not going to get this looking exactly the way that we want it right now, today, I don't think, which is fine. Oh my word, I cannot believe we've been drawing this long. Does not feel like it. Just one of those days where it feels like it just started. And I look up at the clock, and we've been out here for over an hour. Wow. Does not seem possible. I don't know if you guys have this problem or not, but I seem to always have that problem where I have to tell myself, okay, stop. You've got to do other things. You can't just draw all day. There are other things that have to be done. But I always feel like that those other things are just evil and get in the way. Okay. I just have a couple more things I want to get done with this mouth before I pause on it. I don't want to leave it in a spot where I'm unsure of what I'm doing when I come back to it, So I hope that makes sense. I need this to be brighter over here. Yeah, that's dark. Okay. There we go. I don't know if Nick is still out here, but Nick, I just love the portrait that you did on the Lux Archival paper. And then I was just going to ask if there's other portraits you're going to be doing. There we go. Okay. All right. Thanks, Heidi. Heidi's saying she has to go, sadly. So thanks for coming out here. And it was good to see you over here. Okay. Move that down just a little bit. All right. I think I'm almost done with this portion, to where I can come back in here and I won't be all confused on what I was trying to do.
I did a trio of honeybees with Karen D8 Pablos for tiny detail.
Let's see here. Oh, Nick is saying he did a trio of honeybees with the Karen Dash Pablos for tiny detail. Did you do that on the Lux archival paper? That's what I was wondering, if you were using that with some of your recent work that you're doing. It's very cool. Okay.
The paper took to those pencils wonderfully.
Oh, cool. Okay, so I guess it is the Lux archival that you were using. Awesome. Yeah, I really love that paper. So nice. Yeah. I can't wait to do some more on it. Okay. There we go. Okay, folks, I think I'm going to go ahead and call that a day. I'm just looking at it on the screen. That's better than it was. There's a few things we can improve upon next time. So I feel like we're getting close. We're getting very, very close. And this has been so fun just to reserve this and work on it each week out here live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and go. Thanks for watching. If you're watching the stream after we're done, the recording of the stream, thanks for coming out here as well. We'll talk to you soon. Have a terrific day. Bye-bye.